Hey there, welcome back to Nancy's Homestyle Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make a 2-layer carrot cake with a yummy cream cheese frosting. Normally at the beginning of my videos, I go over all the ingredients with you, but there's quite a few for this recipe, but don't let that scare you. I'm going to go over all the ingredients during each step and they'll all be listed in the show notes below. Let's get started. Before we make the cake batter, we need to prepare our cake pans. I have 2 9-inch cake pans, and what we need to do is spray some cooking spray in there, make sure it's coated over the bottom and the sides, and then cut a piece of parchment paper out to fit on the bottom, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's spray this one first. Just a light spray, kind of run this pastry brush around it to make sure it gets all coated. So let me show you how to make this circle. Cut a piece of parchment paper that's a little bit wider than your pan, and then you want to fold it like you did when you made snowflakes in school. Folding it at the point and then fold it over at the point again. So you want to end up with your parchment paper, just fold it over a few times where you have a nice point. Then I just flip it over, kind of measure, put the tip of the parchment paper right where you think the center is, and take some scissors and make a cut a little bit in a curved fashion. And when you open it up, you have a circle, and it will fit right down on the bottom. And the oil that's on the bottom of the pan will help it adhere to the bottom of the pan. If it goes up the sides a little bit, don't worry. If it's a little too short, don't worry. This is just going to help the cake release from the pan. I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees. Actually, I think it's already preheated. So the next step is to begin making the batter. We're going to start by mixing the dry ingredients. You're going to need 2 large size bowls. I have a nesting set of bowls, so I'm going to take my largest bowl and use that for the dry ingredients, because what we'll end up doing at the next step is adding the wet ingredients to the dry. So in this bowl, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm going to add that. And then for the spices, I have 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ground ginger, and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So we'll put that in there and give this a whisk. You don't have to whisk it that much, just try to get it a little incorporated. All right, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is the wet ingredient mixture, and I'll go over those ingredients with you. Now let's go over the ingredients that will make up the wet mixture. In this bowl, I have 4 room temperature eggs, a half a cup of canned crushed pineapple. I drained the pineapple and I squeezed as much moisture out of the pineapple as I could. I have 1 cup each of brown sugar and white sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 3/4 cup of a neutral oil. Today I'm using avocado oil. 3 cups of grated carrots. This is about 3 large carrots, and 1 cup of finely chopped toasted pecans. We will start by beating up the eggs just to get them broken, and it'll be easier to incorporate the other ingredients. So let's add in the 1 cup of brown sugar. And this kind of gets clumpy, so you got to use your whisk to break up the chunks. And it's easier to do this when you have less of the mixture in there, especially the oil. Once you add the oil in there, it kind of makes everything swim around the bowl and it's harder to get to. Here is the 1 cup of white sugar. You can see how those chunks of brown sugar are breaking down because I'm really able to get at them. Now let's add the teaspoon of vanilla and the 3/4 cup of avocado oil. And this is gonna tend to wanna stay kind of separated, and that's okay. Let's add in the pineapple. And I'm actually gonna switch to a spatula to do this because I have pretty big ingredients now that I'm adding. So we're gonna add the 3 cups of shredded carrots and the 1 cup of toasted pecans that have been finely chopped. So let's just give these a good mix. I think toasting the pecans is a key to baking. I actually won first place at my state fair for my toasted pecan pumpkin bread, and this was years ago. And ever since then, I firmly believe in toasting the nuts to bring out the flavor. So what I did is when my oven was preheating, I just spread 2 cups of pecans out on the baking sheet and put them in the oven for about 7 to 10 minutes to toast, and then let them cool before I chopped them. And you have to watch it because the nuts can toast really quick and go from nice and toasty to burnt before you even know it. So just keep an eye on that. Now we're going to add this to our dry mixture that we did earlier, the flour, baking powder, and baking soda. And this is where we just want to get it incorporated. We don't want to overmix. This recipe is adapted from a family recipe that goes back to my Aunt Virginia, who fed a lot of hungry ranch hands on their wheat ranch. And I added a couple things extra that I'm sure if she were alive today, she would really enjoy it. But when I think of home-style cooking, Aunt Virginia is one of the first ones that comes to mind. Okay, that is just incorporated enough. I'm going to clear my workspace and we'll get these put into the baking pans. You're going to notice my cake pans look a little different. There are these purple strips around. These are made by Wilton and they're called Bake Even cake strips. And basically you size them to your pan, take them off and soak them in water. So these are nice and damp. I just wrung them out and I put them around each pan. And what it helps is with doming. So you're not going to get a huge dome on the top of your cake so you can stack it without having to cut a bunch of that dome off to level your cake and then essentially wasting your cake. So we're going to eyeball it and try to put half of this mixture into each pan. You could weigh this on a scale if you want to be more accurate, but I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, I think I have these as even as I can. They're going to go into an oven and bake for 30 to 35 minutes. And what we're going to do is put a toothpick in the center, and when it comes out clean and the cake is pulled away from the sides a little bit, they're going to be done. So then we'll take them out and I'll show you what they look like. Our cakes were in the oven for 35 minutes and they are done. I just took a toothpick, inserted it into the center of the cake, and it came out nice and dry. Now you'll notice with using these bake strips how flat the top is. Initially you might think the cake has fallen, but it hasn't. This is exactly what these cake strips do, is provide even cooking throughout the pan with no dome. So now we don't have to cut the top off and toss it. I'm going to let these cool for about 10 minutes and then I'll turn them out on the cake rack to finish cooling. And while that's happening, we will make the frosting. Let's go over the ingredients to make the frosting. We're going to start with 1 8-ounce block of cream cheese. Then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. Both the butter and the cream cheese have been softened to room temperature. Then we'll add a teaspoon of vanilla and 3 cups of powdered sugar. After we frost the cake, we're going to top it with an additional 1 cup of roughly chopped toasted pecans. So let's start with the frosting. First thing we need to do is whip the cream cheese in a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can just use a bowl with a hand mixer. Now we'll add in 4 tablespoons of softened butter. 4 tablespoons is half of a cube of butter. So that also equals 1/4 of a cup. Okay, get that one going. And just let that go for about 30 seconds to a minute. We'll scrape it down one more time and get the rest of this cream cheese off here. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm just gonna use the lid as a measuring spoon. And I've learned in the past, slow it down or that stuff goes everywhere. Finally, we need to incorporate the powdered sugar. So let's drop the speed down, and I'm just gonna come to the back side because that's where I can reach better. Sorry if you can't see it that great, but I'm just going to slowly add it in and let it mix in. Maybe just about 1/4 cup at a time. If we go too fast, we're gonna have a cloud of powdered sugar everywhere. And let's do one more scrape down of the sides. And then that will be about it. Super good cream cheese frosting. I think is the best frosting for carrot cake. Okay, the frosting is done. I'm just gonna scrape it off of the paddle attachment. When the cakes are cold, we'll begin frosting the cakes. So I wanna show you how these come out of the pan. I've already taken one out. What I did is I ran my offset spatula around the rim of the pan to release any of the cake that may have stuck to the side. And you'll see how good this paper works on the bottom. I'm just gonna tip it out. Give it a little scooch. And then this paper just peels right off the bottom. So you could see how nice it is to have this on the bottom. The cake really just releases right out of the pan. So now I'm gonna let this finish cooling. This is kind of a denser cake because of all the carrots and the pineapple and the nuts. So it's not a fluffy light cake like you would get in just a regular chocolate cake or a yellow cake. But I'm sure you've probably had carrot cake before and know. But see how there's no nice domes? So these are gonna stack beautifully on top of one another when we're frosting them. So as soon as they're cool, we'll frost them up. The cakes have cooled, so it's time to frost them. I wanted to show you how pretty this is. You can see the carrots and the little chunks of pineapple and the nuts right in the cake. It is so pretty. So we're gonna start with 1/2 cup of frosting in the middle for the filling. So just put that there. And then these offset spatulas work really well for frosting or icing cakes. And you can get them at Walmart or Michael's or anywhere where they sell cake decorating supplies. Okay, so we're gonna grab the top layer. And set it on top and get it as even as possible. All right, let's put another dollop on top. And spread it around. I should add, you can also make this in a 9x13 casserole dish if you don't have cake pans, and you just cook it for 35 to 45 minutes. And just frost the top, and it's just as good. Now, I'm not the world's best cake decorator, so we're gonna give this a whirl. I want to put some frosting down around the sides. And I'm probably gonna get crumbs in the frosting, which is fine, because I'm gonna put nuts around the side of it. These yummy toasted pecans. Okay, I think this looks good. So now I have the 1 cup of toasted pecans, and these are more of a rough chop than what I put inside the cake. I wanted those a little finer. So I'm just gonna sprinkle them around the top. All right, there you have carrot cake. This would be great for Easter or any time of the year. So let me get a knife and we'll cut in and we'll give it a try. All right, let's cut into it and see how it turned out. After I cut this piece out, I'll turn it around so you can see what it looks like inside. That looks pretty yummy. Okay, so here's the inside of the cake. Here we have a great looking piece. You can see the bits of carrot and the pineapple. And let's give it a taste. This is so good. It has those warm spices like a spice cake. And then with the tender carrots and the cream cheese frosting, it's just a winner. So I hope you give it a try. If you do, let me know, and I hope you enjoy. I'll see you on the next video.